Hi, my name's Jason, and I have cancer, colon cancer to be exact. Right after Thanksgiving 2015, about a little over almost 2 months ago, you know, had a typical Thanksgiving, ate a lot of food, ate a lot of bad food, and thought, uh, you know, I'm gonna have some normal rumbles and grumbles in my stomach and maybe have a bad time in the bathroom. I don't know, but that evening, Thanksgiving evening, I started feeling tired and my stomach started to hurt, and I was starting to feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have had that 14th piece of cherry pie. You know what I'm talking about? Um, anyway, I ended up having a lot of uncomfortability. That's not a word. Uncomfortableness in the lower region of my abdomen, and I thought maybe just some stomach problems, standard stuff. Maybe I'm going to have diarrhea, something like that. That lasted 3 days, and as the days progressed, it became worse and worse and worse. I actually had to take a day off from work because I didn't think I could make it. So come that Sunday was when it was starting to peak, and it really started to hurt. I started to have a lot of pain. I hadn't had a bowel movement in 3 days. I had um, a lot of stomach pain. It felt literally like somebody was cutting into me. Like it felt like a stabbing pain. And the next day, I had to go to work, and if I missed 2 days, I was gonna possibly, get written up. I thought I'd try to tough it out. Um, the reason I stayed home the night before was because I actually vomited, and it seemed to relieve some of the pain. So I actually, but I felt nauseous from then on. And so I went to work. I did my best. I took, I stayed as long as I could. Took a little extra sick time I had left and accrued. It was a new job, and I was just coming up on 90 days. I hadn't made it there yet. But that night I went home, and I said, okay, if I throw up again, I'm gonna need to go to the ER because this just is not happening. It's not, something's wrong. So it's been 4 days. I haven't had a bowel movement. I feel stomach stabbing pains, and I'm tired. I'm in pain. My daughter is here. She's seeing me in pain. She's worried to death about me. My girlfriend's worried to death, and like, okay, look. So I vomited, and we went to the ER. I went to the ER. They they're trying to diagnose me. They gave me some pain meds to make sure that the pain in my stomach went away, and then they did a CT scan because they said, okay, abdominal pain. We need to see what's going on in there. They found that my colon had an obstruction, and they weren't sure what it was, but they were waiting to hear back from doctors. So about an hour goes by. They've done blood draws and just doing this standard vitals stuff and give me some pain meds. And the ER was full, so they typically don't give you a bed unless you absolutely need it. You're bleeding or they need to keep a closer eye on you, and they immediately bring me back in there. Um, and I start contacting friends, start putting the feelers out for family in case something's wrong. And basically, because they've just told me that I have obstruction, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So my girlfriend leaves the room because you can only have one person in there at a time. And one of my best friends shows up, and no sooner than he was in there and asks what's going on, that you hear the swish swish of you know um, the curtain, whatever, in the ER as I'm in the bed, and it's two doctors fully scrubbed up, and it's the head of trauma surgeon of the entire southwest area, whatever. I forget what he said. It was kind of high on morphine. And but then also his little understudy guy who was doing some sort of internship before. He's a military doctor. He's a military surgeon, learning some new techniques and stuff. So that's a little intimidating. And they're straight faced. They're not trying to have a good time at all with you. They're not trying to sugarcoat it. And they basically said, okay, look, you have either diverticulitis or you have colon cancer. They just said it just like that. And my friend's just sitting there, his mouth dropped, my mouth dropped, but we're not quite sure what to make of it. And crossing your fingers for diverticulitis. Uh, so with this news, they start to go into my CT scan on the computer next to us, and they say, hey, this is what we're looking at, and you have about 2 liters of fluid that are backed up in your upper bowels that is not able to go push through, and it's because of one of these two reasons. The surgical procedure is the same either way, but we need to go in and do exploratory surgery to find out if it is cancer. Try to figure that out. Either way, you're coming out probably with a colostomy bag and a nice little incision mark. And I'm like, okay. And so they make it sound like, hopefully diverticulitis, but they can't tell you. Obviously, they got to go in. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have surgery the next morning. They're gonna get me in the hospital, and they're like, no, we're doing this in 2 hours. So I have to make this decision, and at this point, I don't have insurance because my new job, you don't get insurance until 90 days because you got to sign up for that stuff. And I'm literally on day 89. So I was in a bit of a bind. And as a man, I'm obviously, that's the first thing that your mind goes to is your finances. You need to make sure that your family's taken care of. You need to make sure that you're, you got a place to stay and your daughter or your kids or whatever and are well cared for and their needs are met because they're your responsibility. If you're a good parent anyway, some people are selfish. But I'm telling them, I'm like, I don't have insurance. And they're like, don't worry about it. We're gonna get you taken care of. We'll worry about that later. This is important. You need to do it. And I'm like, okay, you know what? You're right. I'm being stupid. That's just the stupidest thing you could ever think of when it comes to your health and possibly dying, because that's exactly what could have happened. My colon could have burst, and that I don't even want to imagine that world. So I go into uh, so they tell me that I have 2 hours, and I'm like, my both my sisters, they live in the north part of town. It takes about 45 minutes to get there if they don't speed. And my mother lives 2 hours away. So literally, my mom would get there right as I was going into surgery, and they basically said we need some people here to talk to, and I'm kind of panicking. So my cousin, who's also my roommate, he comes down. It's him, my girlfriend. My sisters know about it. They're going to try to make it there. They did eventually, but I was at that time I was already in surgery. So I had some people there. I had a good support system in place, and some important people were there. So I agreed to the surgery. Sign all the paperwork, get admitted. I go to my room. They scrub me. They wash me, whatever, and then we go into the into the room for surgery. And it was one of the I've never had surgery before. I never got under the knife. I mean, I broke my pelvis in high school, but I was basically knocked out from pain and then pain medications for most of that. But I didn't need a cast. I didn't need surgery. They just basically just scanned me, the X-rays. They said, okay, this is how it's going to work. You're going to heal up, whatever. Never had surgery. So thank God at that time. So I went into the surgery, and these guys are like rock stars. I mean, there's music playing in the background. These guys it feels, I don't know how to explain this, but it felt like these guys know what they're doing. They've been here before. They've done this 1,000 times, but they weren't, so overconfident that I was like, okay, these guys might screw up because they think there's all that. And, but I felt confident going into the surgery with the surgical team that was there. They put me up on the surgical table, and I've never been on one before, obviously. So it's real thin. It's a lot thinner than a bed I mean, I guess I don't know why I assumed I'd be on something bigger. I'm kind of a wide guy anyway, so maybe that had something to do with it. But they placed me on it, and it felt like then they swing these arms out, and they put my arms out, and it's very crucifix like, and that's a little intimidating, especially when I don't know, it's just a little weird. So they start hooking me up with IVs and things like that, and then the guy comes in for the anesthesia, and he comes in. He's got you see it in the movies. You probably experienced it if you've ever had anesthesia. But the little green mask comes over your mouth, and that's the guy says, "Okay, I want you to," and that's all I remember. I don't remember what he asked me to do. I remember nothing, which is awesome because next thing I know, it was very instant. I woke up, and I'm in a bed. It's dark. It's obvious. There's a clock. I can see that it's like 5 a.m. maybe. But I'm really drugged up on a lot of medication, and I'm kind of groggy, and I'm like, I've got this tube in my mouth. I've got an IV on my left arm. I have this little thing hooked up to check my oxygen levels, and that little clamp thing they put on your finger for whatever they check for that, whatever that magic device does. I hear the beeping. I've got all my monitors and stuff hooked up, and I've got a few those little, it's not the right word, cathodes, whatever those little sticky things are that they put on you to check your heart rates and all that stuff. And I feel down, on over my blanket and through my my gown or whatever, and I feel, oh, colostomy bag. Okay, they told me that was going to happen. It just freaks you out a little bit. And then I felt that there was this long, it's about 10 inches long, of this weird like spongy material, but I couldn't, and it was like taped over. Apparently, come to find out later that was a some sort of a suction device that kept any liquid from anything that might be oozing out. It would be suctioned on there, so that way that the incision would close correctly and hold the staples together while it was healing. So I had that for about a week. So yeah, and so the next morning they come in, doctors come in, they're talking to me, and basically just waiting to hear the news. And they said, doctor comes in, he's like, well, first off, let me back up. There's the nurses come in, they're checking all my stuff, and they're making sure that I'm comfortable and all that. And my family's there, and I can tell that they know something I don't, and I don't like it. And you know, because I'm hoping for diverticulitis, but no one's telling me shit, and I'm starting to get a little panicked. And you know, a little bit later, doctor comes in after as much of my family is there as possible, and my mom did come down. My nanny, she came down. She's like an adopted grandmother. Both my sisters, my cousin was there, my girlfriend was there, and I think Steven was there. Yeah, I think it was it. So, buddy of mine. Anyway, doctor comes in and tells me, okay, yeah, so it looks like it was cancer. We weren't able to. Basically, what they did is they went in for exploratory surgery, took a lymph node bisection, whatever they do, to send it off for testing, make sure that it is, make sure that it's cancer or what stage it's at, all that stuff. But they're like, yeah, it looks like cancer, and we're not able to, you know, we weren't able to remove it, which we would normally do, because of where it's at. And I guess what had happened is it was 7 centimeters, which is pretty big. It's about, I was told it's about as big as my pinky, which, you know, when you curl that up and you turn it into a little area like your colon's supposed to be, that's pretty big. So they did, so they took the biopsy, whatever, for the lymph node after the exploratory surgery, put the colostomy bag in there so that way nothing else was going to be going into that area, try to give it a chance to heal. The reason I couldn't take it out is because it was sharing a wall with my, I believe, an artery and where my kidney is at. So it's sharing that space. And if they had gone in and done surgery, they could have nicked the artery or possibly nicked my kidney, and then I would have lost my kidney as well. And so, smart move on their part, I guess. But you know, I could have, if it was somewhere else. It's in the sigmoid region of my colon, which is the space that goes down towards your rectum, but it's above your rectum. So I lucked out, because if it was at my rectum or near my rectum, that goes away, and my colostomy bag is irreversible. As of right now, it's reversible. So that's the plan, is to get it reversed after some of the things I'm about to go into. So the prognosis was not as scary as I thought it was going to be. I have cancer, right? And that's scary. No one wants to hear that, but I'm like, okay, at least now I know. I can figure out what's in the game plan. You know, I had a pretty optimistic outlook on it until we got until we were going to get the final results, what stage it's at, and all that stuff. Because I'm like, well, I feel fine, but you know, that doesn't mean anything. But turned out, I think a couple days later, it came back and it said, okay, it's stage 3, which is good if you want to say that. It's better than stage 4. Stage 3 is where it's localized and it has spread to at least one lymph node in your body. So they start doing scans, and I mean, I think I had 2 more CT scans. I had 2 CT scans specifically for my abdominal region and my upper chest, to check and make sure that I didn't have it in my lungs, that I didn't have cancer in any of my other organs, that I was okay there. Checking my colon again to make sure that there was no other areas that it might be at. I did a bone scan, was it a PT scan, I think it was called, an MRI, make sure I didn't have brain cancer. So I made sure I didn't have brain cancer, I didn't have bone cancer, I didn't have any other tissues in my body that they could tell that had cancer. And as far as the lymph node, whatever they do to that to find out what the staging is, they came back and said stage 3, but it's not anywhere else in my body, so that's good. So they're pointing at something genetic that is specific to my colon, and it just activated, and for some reason, whatever, it activated in me. And so I'm 33, going on 34, and they said this is ultra rare for someone your age to get colon cancer that goes to this level. You know, that usually they don't even recommend you get colonoscopies until you're 50, and I'm 33. I wouldn't have even thought to do it. And so, you know, who knew? Who knew? I guess I should have known. I did have a couple of things, but I didn't really look into what the symptoms of cancer would be. You know, like I thought I look back up like a few years ago. I had some small amounts of blood in my stool, and that's always a bad sign. But you know, I was in denial a little bit, and I didn't really talk about it, obviously. But that's a sign. That's a sign of cancer. Fatigue is number one, apparently. Who knew? You know, if you're fatigued all the time, you have chronic fatigue, and you can't figure it out, go get a colonoscopy. Go get it done. Just get yourself scanned. You know, trust me. If you can handle this without having a colostomy bag, do it. Do it. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 20. Go find out. Go find out because you do not want to wake up with one of these things because it is gross. It's almost 2 months now and I've gotten slightly accustomed to it, but it's still not something I'm looking forward to having for the rest of my life, which thank God I don't have to. So anyway, the I guess I don't really have a point here. I'm just trying to the point of this video is to, one, when I was doing research on chemotherapy, which I'm actually I'm on round 2 right now. I actually have a little sweet little pump that is set up on me, and it goes into this is called a port. I always call it a central line. That's not right. It's a port, and that's a separate surgery you have to get in order to get. It goes there's a little nick right here near your carotid artery. They stick a tube in here, I guess, and then there's your port goes down here. They cut a little slit here. They put your port in there, and that's how they access your artery for blood draws, for the chemo being introduced into you, any of the other stuff. Instead of going into an IV, I recommend getting this because man, that was rough. While I was in the hospital, I'd had it in, and they needed to give me potassium because my potassium was really low, and I had the little butterfly thing on my hand. And when I put that potassium in you, it burns. And it literally, I thought my fist clenched up and it felt like I was, like my hand was turning into a piece of iron. It hurt and it was really uncomfortable. And I don't complain about pain a lot. I mean, they asked me how my pain was, and I say, I know in my head it's 3-4 for me, but I know that that's for most people is like a between 5 and 8 because I don't complain. I try not to complain about stuff, and but I know I need this because it's like, look, this could get worse, and I need to make sure I'm taken care of with that. So that's just my mind, how it works, I guess. I don't want to put anybody out. I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me, and so anyway, I'm jumping around a lot. So chemo. I was looking on YouTube, a lot of videos for chemo, and you see a lot of females because, you know, obvious reasons. Cervical cancer, breast cancer. That's a lot more common, I guess. You know, and it's going to affect a lot more people. Obviously, females. Men can get breast cancer, but it's a lot more rare, from what I've read. So, you know, I saw a lot of these younger girls. They were between, you know, 23 and, you know, all the way up to 60. You know, but not really making videos at 60. But you know, and it's the same process, but there's no male representatives out there, and you know, guys don't really like to talk about this stuff. And I did come across a couple of guys, and they had the same thing. They had colon cancer, but you know, there was few. There was only a few of them. So the more faces that can be out in front of this, I feel is better. With that said, the chemo treatment that I'm on is called Folfox. There's a bunch of different ones apparently, but the one that they put me on for my specific cancer is called Folfox. So there's like 5 different medications that you get put on for Folfox, and then they send you home. You usually go in for an infusion once every 2 weeks. At least that's what I'm doing. And then didn't sound that bad, but then they said, okay, well now we're going to give you a pump that's got the actual chemo in it to go home with, and it plugs into your central line. Make sure this doesn't get pulled. You're responsible for a lot of stuff. Sleeping is hard because you can't just like, you can unhook this belt. It's like a little fanny pack, and it's uncomfortable to, you know, not uncomfortable. It's just, it's weird. It's awkward because you're off center. You know, it's like, it's not heavy, but it's kind of, it's bulky. So, you know, it's an annoyance. But yeah, sleeping, you got to be careful because you can take the belt off, and then, but you need to make sure you put it in a spot that is good. That's not going to fall off your bed because there's a tube and it's only so long. And if this yanks out, ooh, that's going to hurt because there's a little injection needle that you don't feel when you put it in the central line, or in the, see, called it that. When you put it into the port, you don't feel it, but if that were to pop out, I'm sure that would be not good. So you got to deal with that for 2 days, and you go back in, which that's today. Today I go back in to get my pump off. This is my second round of chemo. Um, luckily I'm on one that they said does not make me have hair loss, but I will get nausea, but I have medications to treat that. So as of right now, I haven't had too much nausea, and obviously no hair loss, which is good. That'll be fun. I thought, oh, I'll just shave my head or something. It's not a bad look. Bald's fine with me. So, but I know that would affect a lot of other people differently, females especially. I mean, that's hard. There are some people in the cancer ward when I go in there to get my infusion, whatever, and you could tell that these women have, they look at me, and I'm this real big, seemingly healthy male coming in here, and there's all these people who are sick and possibly dying, and it's really eye-opening. You walk in there, and it's just part of you is sad, and part of you feels, like that's when it hits you, like, I've got cancer. I could have that cancer. I could be where they're at. Well, what happens if this gets worse? Your mind starts messing with you a lot. So it's an experience for sure. And you know what? It's actually been more of a blessing than it has a curse, truthfully, if I'm being truthful, which I don't know why I've even said that, because, I am truthful. So I counted it up, and I may have missed a few people because I was really drugged up on morphine, because that central line was, they cut right directly into you and got into your organs and stuff. And it's painful to move, painful to cough, painful to sneeze. Ugh, that still hurts. And you're just mentally wiped. And so you just keep hitting that little button to give you the pain medication. And so I was in and out, but I counted up as many as I could. And I had 52 people come see me in the hospital over the course of 2 weeks. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And, I was kind of in not a depression, but I was in a bit of a rut with life. And all these people that came out to see me, I understand it. Not everyone has that. Not everybody gets that. And I was so lucky to have that support. And the people that I haven't seen in a while, a college roommate showed up and to see me, gave me like a picture with a bunch of pictures of us from way back when. He just saw something on my Facebook, about it. He's married and got his own life, and we've kind of lost touch, but good guy, still good guy, same old guy. And he shows up, he gives me that, and he's like, "Hey man, I just want to come by and say hey," and took off. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing that he took the time to come do that. And there's a lot of people that couldn't make it because they're out of town, or their lives are so busy that they don't even have the time to go do that. And I understand that, and that's fine. But then they'll text me something. But 52 people physically came and saw me. I got presents. It was like Christmas. It was insane. I wasn't expecting any of that. And it really touched me. It really did. And it made me feel like, okay, there's knowing that colon cancer is the one that you could probably beat the easiest. I feel even stupid saying or thinking that I could die from this, because, medical technology, I believe in it. I think it's going to work. I have really good hopes, and everybody's got a good outcome, but it's cancer. They could very well come back later and say, hey, it was stage 4 and you're screwed. And, I don't want to be in that position when I realize what I could have done with life, and what I could be doing with life, and how I could be touching people, and how I could be helping. And you think about those things, I'm selfish about being unselfish. I think that makes sense. I want to be so unselfish that it's actually a selfish endeavor. And it's kind of like whenever you go out and you do stuff like, you go fix meals for the poor, or you go do those things. I love doing that stuff because of the feeling it gives me. And you know what? There's worse things than that in the world. If there was a lot more people that were that selfish, that the giving is a selfish thing in itself for them because they like the way it feels. Maybe it's not always like that, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You get that feeling of I made a difference in somebody's life. And maybe that's not selfish. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling, which is what I do. But I just really feel like that's something I need to do. I need to bring awareness. I need to make sure that guys don't want to go get something stuck up their butt, and or maybe they do. But that's not ideal. You don't want to have a camera invading you and then, like you're some alien abductee and, then possibly be told that, so you're already going through something that's uncomfortable that's until you're 50, doctors say is unnecessary. And then come back and say, hey, maybe you got cancer, or maybe you got polyps, you got to have surgery. I mean, these are all bad things, but be aware. Don't let it get to this point where you're sitting here reevaluating life and looking at a colostomy bag on a daily basis and, being grossed out by your own body and your own, you're left with your own devices because when you're on chemo, you can't do a lot. You can't have people come over. You can't go out to the grocery store. You can't go to the gym, that's for sure. You can't, I mean, technology is your best friend because you can communicate through Facebook or YouTube or whatever, like what I'm doing. That's basically what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of, I guess, talking to myself, but in hopes that it will help somebody. With that said, I'm going to try to keep making these videos like probably once a week, just to, update on my chemo situation. So probably next Monday, I'll probably do another one, but I'm going to be putting together a blog / little fun project for me. I'm a graphic designer who turned IT support, who wanted to get more into web design and learn about WordPress and things like that. I kind of already knew what was going on with that, but I'm going to try to merge the two, and who knows, hopefully come out of this with another skill set. But I'm going to be developing a WordPress blog called Cancervania.com, and for those of you who don't know, that's a play on words of a video game that I was really into when I was a kid, Castlevania. I'm a huge nerd. I love look at this. Batman's my jam. Love video games. I love nerdy culture, but not like hipstery. I've been into it for a while. So anyway, that'll be coming down the pipe Monday. So if you're watching this and you want to keep tabs, I'll be pushing that every video I got at Cancervania.com. I also have a GoFundMe campaign because of the way that my insurance didn't work out. I ended up getting some emergency insurance, but I don't know what all it covers. I think it covered the surgery and the anesthesia and all that went on there in my hospital stay. But there's bills coming and they're piling up. And anybody who's had medical bills, medical problems, or didn't have insurance, which is not typical for me. I usually always have insurance, but I switched jobs and whatever. But those bills stack up. They will. I mean, my ER bill, I got that one. That was $1,000. Boom, right off the bat. What? That's for walking in the door and getting my vitals taken and talking to somebody for a few minutes. It's ridiculous. Healthcare in this country is so. I don't want to badmouth it because it's obviously doing me good things right now, but it could be better. Things could be better. And the whole insurance rigmarole where you've got to get a referral to go to another doctor that you've already seen, it boggles my mind. So anyway, with that said, look for updates, look for new videos. I'm gonna try to be a little more concise and have like an agenda, talking points, things like that. If you have questions, put them in the comments. There's a lot of people going through this stuff and you don't know about it. And a lot of people don't even talk about it, probably, because some of this is easy to conceal. Luckily, I had a friend who actually went through this a couple years back, a coworker of mine at my last job, and she was, nobody knew. Obviously, you got laws and stuff that protect you, and it's not like, you want that stuff spread around, but especially when it's scary, but she went through exactly the same thing that I did. She's a little older than me, but I mean, she, not by much. And she went through the same thing, same process, same treatments. So she came and saw me in the hospital. She was one of the people that came and gave me some words of encouragement, and I know she's got my back, and I know she knows what I'm going through, and it's really good to have somebody like that because you have questions. You have a lot of questions, and you don't know. So that's what I'm here for. If you have questions about medications, side effects, alternative medicine approaches that I'm looking into, not to replace chemo, but to kind of go hand in hand, ask me questions if you've got them. So with that said, I'm going to sign off and hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks. Bye.